Hi, my name's Daniel Sohage and I'm the director of Stand for All. Now, this is only a very quick video and it's going to be a very low resolution video because I'm doing it on my phone. I'm not editing it too much because it's Sunday morning. Thing is, I wasn't actually going to be doing a video this soon after the last one I did talking about the reality of when people say first safe country, legal routes, the migrant crossings in the channel, all that sort of thing. I will include a link to that one though in the description for this video. What's happened is a number of, I will charitably say, questions have been raised from people, and I think that we do urgently need to address a few of the myths that surround refugees themselves. Now, I do apologise, you might see me looking down, I've got a few notes here. So, you may have heard people claiming that all asylum seekers are young men of a fighting age. Well, all young men are of a fighting age, that's the nature of being a young man. So what's happening is this phrase is being specifically used to try and generate a sense of fear among people. It's the same sort of war rhetoric and language as we hear with invasion. It's designed to make it sound hostile. It's a scary thing. You're seeing this invasion of fighting age young men. Now, the majority of refugees, or majority of asylum seekers, I should say, are men of aged between about 18 to 34. And that's really not that very surprising when you start thinking about it. We're talking not only about arduous and dangerous journeys, but also very expensive ones. I mean, you take a second to think how much it would cost you to drop everything, leave your home, and escape your country without alerting the authorities who are persecuting you, and then travel to a country where you feel safe. It's not something you can do really that easily without having a certain amount of money behind you. Now, for a lot of families, that means that they have to pool resources so they can send one person. And that person has to be the person with the best chance of making it, but also of once they've had their claim processed. And this is important, bear in mind that an asylum seeker in the UK is not allowed to work until they've had their claim processed, and that can take years. So once they've had that claim processed and they are entitled to work, they have to have the best chance of getting a job, being able to work, being able to save money, and then being able to help somebody else from that family escape persecution and seek asylum again. Now, that's not talking about opening the doors to people, that's talking about trying to help people who desperately need safety and desperately need to escape persecution, the only chance that many of them have. Also, what you're saying is a lot of these young men are coming from middle class, upwards, affluent families, again, because of the money. And that's the thing. We aren't talking about people who are coming over to invade. We are talking about people who are fleeing persecution, and they're having to look at what is the best chance for everybody to be able to escape that persecution. Now, linked to the whole fighting age line is this idea that refugees are terrorists and criminals. The Cato Institute in America, which is not exactly known for being left-leaning, if we're brutally honest, has estimated that the chance of an American being killed in a terrorist attack by a refugee is about 1 in 3.86 billion. That's 1 in 3.86 billion. Now, that's compared to 1 in 4.1 million by someone on a tourist visa. And again, it's not hard to see why. The journey the refugees have to make involves not only escaping the original country where they're being persecuted, but jumping through multiple hoops, multiple checks along the line, and then finally when they reach somewhere where they can have their claim processed, those claims are scrutinised to the nth degree. So if you are a terrorist trying to sneak into a country, there are easier ways of doing it. Trying to do it as a refugee would not only take a phenomenal amount of time, but it's also an incredibly dangerous way of doing it because there's so many chances along that route where you'd be caught. So they're not coming as terrorists. Asylum seekers have multiple checks that they have to go through, and they have to explain themselves, and their detailed explanations will be checked against everything. They will be questioned repeatedly. So it doesn't make sense. Now, it's just on a purely logical sense, It doesn't make sense. And that is backed up by the figures. As I said, in America, chances of an American being killed in a terrorist attack by a refugee is 1.386 billion. Now, I'm not saying that all refugees are angels or pure as the driven in snow. Of course not. They're human. They're fallible. Everybody is. There are people in any community who are going to be criminals. That is the nature of things. It's just that statistically, they are actually going to be one of the least likely groups to either be a terrorist or a criminal or carry out any form of criminality without, just as an unmotivated attack type of thing. And again, that's not surprising. When you think about how hard it is to reach safety and how difficult it is to actually claim asylum, you're not going to jeopardise that and risk being deported because you have broken the law. And this is a point to raise about the International Convention relating to the status of refugees. A lot of conventions have what's known as a derogation ability. It's a clause. It means that you don't, when you sign up to it, you don't have to comply to certain provisions, or you can refuse to comply to certain provisions of it. The Refugee Convention doesn't have a derogation clause. Once you've signed up to it, you sign up to it in its entirety. Now, it does, however, have certain clauses regarding national security and public order, because states recognise that they have to protect themselves in certain respects. So you hear people saying, we've got to take them on, we've got to take them on. No, you don't. You have to process their claim. You have to show good, justified reasons why they may be a national security threat. But if they are, you don't have to provide them with asylum. And this is a common misconception. So we aren't talking about terrorists and criminals on this. We're talking about young men because they are the ones with the best chance of reaching safety and the best chance of having their claim processed and the best chance of being able to work to raise enough money to help other people escape persecution, to escape to a place where they can find safety themselves. And sort of tenuously linked to this are two other points. One is mobile phones and one is benefits. And these are strangely two things that keep coming up, but if you think about it logically, don't make a lot of sense. You hear people say, well, they can't be refugees, they've got an iPhone. Well, most people have phones now. Most people have smartphones now. And again, you're talking about people who are coming from middle class or upwards affluent families. They're going to have a phone. When I leave the house, one of the first things I grab is my mobile, and I'm sure most of us are the same. If you're fleeing the country, one of the first things you're going to take with you is your phone, because you want to be able to keep touch with the people who are still left behind. You want to be able to find out what's happening ahead of you on the road. I mean, we live off our phones nowadays. The idea that people who have them wouldn't take them with them is actually more illogical when you think about it than a refugee having a mobile phone. So it's always a bit of a strange argument. And likewise with benefits. Nobody is crossing the channel for £37.75p per week. You hear people talk about a pull factor. That's certain things where people are drawn to a particular place. You have pull and you have push. Now the push is predominantly persecution, fearing for their safety. Pull is where's the best place for them? Where do they feel safe? £37.75p per week is not a pull factor. It is particularly not a pull factor when you're coming from France, where you can get, I think, what's on the exchange rate this morning, it's about £43 per week. Or Germany, if I've done my maths right, because I found the figures for the month in euros and I've converted round, about £80 per week. So you're not coming across for even fewer benefits. So this is the thing. When you actually think logically about the things you're told, that they are criminals and terrorists, that they are an invasion force, that they are coming for benefits, even without those statistics, things like 1.386 billion chance, they don't make sense. When you just apply common sense and logic to this, it doesn't make sense. And that's what we need to be doing. When every time you hear these lines, you need to be looking at them and saying, well, is that logical? What if I was in that situation? What would I be doing? What would my family be doing? And that's how we need to be talking about this. We need to be changing the language, and we need to be stopping with these myths, because they don't make sense. They are pure rhetoric used by certain people to create fear and doubt. But when you take a second and you step back and you think about them, there is no logical basis for them. So that's all I really wanted to say today. As I said, I wasn't planning on doing a video, so thank you for bearing with me, and I hope that's helped a little bit. Okay, well, thank you very much.